11 days before my wedding, I sat down at my kitchen table with a spreadsheet open on my laptop showing $40,000 in non-refundable deposits, and I made the decision to cancel everything. I want to walk you through how I got there. His name is James. We were together for 3 years before he proposed. The engagement was 14 months long enough to plan a real wedding, which we did. A venue we loved, catering we had tasted and chosen carefully, flowers I had spent more time thinking about than I had expected to, a dress that had taken 4 fittings to get right, 112 guests, hotel room blocks for out-of-town family. My mother had helped me with a significant portion of the planning. My best friend, Dana, was my maid of honor and had put real time into the bachelorette trip, the shower, the rehearsal dinner coordination. People had taken time off work. People had booked flights. 11 days before all of this, I found the messages. I want to be precise about how this happened because I think the how matters. I was not going through James's phone. I was not suspicious, or rather, I had small, quiet doubts that I had been pushing down for months, attributing to pre-wedding anxiety. I was using his laptop to print a document because my printer was out of ink. His messages were open in a browser tab. I was not looking for anything. The name at the top of the thread was a woman I had heard of, a former colleague of his who I had met once at a work event 2 years earlier. I had not thought about her since. The messages went back 9 months. I am not going to describe what was in them in detail, because some of it I am still trying to forget. What I will tell you is that they were not ambiguous. There was no possible interpretation of those messages that would have led me to a conclusion other than the one I reached. 9 months. We had been engaged for 14. I closed the laptop. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. James was at a work dinner that night. I thought about that, about where he was, about the ordinary texture of the lie I had been living inside without knowing it. When he came home, I was still at the table. I told him what I had found. I did not cry. I have cried a great deal in the weeks since, but in that moment, I was past the part of shock where crying happens, and into the part where everything becomes very still and very clear. He did not deny it. He said he was sorry. He said it had been a mistake that had gone on too long. He said he loved me and did not want to lose me. He said we could get through this if I would let us. I asked him how long. He said 9 months. I said, "We have been engaged for 14 months. You have been doing this for 9 of them." He said yes. I told him I needed him to leave. He asked if we could keep talking. I said not that night. He left. I called Dana. She came over within 20 minutes. We sat at the kitchen table where I had been sitting alone, and I told her everything. She did not try to minimize it or suggest I wait before deciding anything. She just sat with me, which was the right thing. The next morning, I started making calls. The venue, non-refundable. The caterer, non-refundable. The florist, non-refundable. The photographer, non-refundable. The band, partially refundable, a small mercy. The dress, non-refundable. Hotel room blocks released without penalty, one small relief in a long list of losses. $40,000 gone. James called me that morning and asked if we could talk before I made any decisions. He said he had spent the night thinking and that he wanted to fight for us. He said canceling the wedding would be a decision we couldn't take back. He said I was overreacting. I want to stay with that word for a moment. I had found 9 months of messages. I was 11 days from marrying this person. He had stood next to me at tastings and fittings and venue walkthroughs and family dinners while this was happening. He had given a toast at our engagement party that made people cry because it was so specific and so tender. He said I was overreacting. I canceled the wedding that afternoon. The guest notifications were the hardest part. 112 people who had made plans, bought flights, arranged childcare. My mother, who had put real love into this process. James's family, who I genuinely liked and who were blindsided by all of it. The messages that came back were mostly kind. A few were not. James and I have not spoken in 6 weeks. I have heard through mutual friends that he is telling a version of this story in which my reaction was disproportionate, in which the discovery was significant, but the immediate cancellation was extreme. I think about that framing sometimes. I think about what a proportionate reaction to 9 months of deception 11 days before a wedding would look like. I have not been able to picture it. I am living with the financial loss. I am living with the grief of a future I had fully imagined and no longer have. I am living with the strange, particular loneliness of losing not just a relationship, but the version of myself that existed inside it. The person who was about to get married, who had a dress, who had flowers picked out. That person is gone. I am still figuring out who comes next. Tell me what you think. Was I right to cancel everything? Drop your verdict in the comments. And subscribe. New story every week.